Hey, everybody, this is Humans in AI, our weekly podcast from Wallaroo. We talk about things that are happening in the news from an AI perspective, and we talk about also our own dealings with being a AI software company and the kind of experience we find with our customers and in our industry at large. Today, you're joined myself, Stephen Spellicy, CEO of Wallaroo, and we have our special guest, Chris McDermott, who is our VP of Research and Development Engineering. Chris, it's great to see you.
You too. Nice to be here. Thank you. Happy Friday.
Great. Yeah, it's wonderful Friday, right? It's a little hazy outside where I am in New England, but I'm sure that'll burn off over the weekend. I'm looking forward to it. So, Chris, I kind of week to week we kind of talk about what's happening in the news, and one of the things that's like on the tip of everybody's tongue is obviously the growth and expansion use of AI. CBS News reported just this week about how companies, and I guess beyond companies, countries are struggling with the impact energy that's related
Mm,
to the demand for infrastructure to support AI. Sounds
hmm
like
hmm
um, everything we want to do with AI is possible, but it requires a lot of resource in order to generate the kind of outcomes that we hope to gain. So it'd be
Yeah.
great to understand, from your vantage point, what you're seeing as it relates to this topic.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a very, relevant topic these days, I'd say. Um, and it's interesting because I think that the impact is kind of very broad and affects us, as individuals and as teams doing development and trying to leverage AI to drive outcomes for our business. But then also at a societal level, right? And the impact to the world and the environment and even geopolitics, when it comes to Taiwan and things like that. Um, on a sort of individual level, one of the biggest things right now is how difficult it is to get a hold of GPUs. A lot of the large language models and the sort of fancier ML techniques that people are applying to hard problems today require big honking GPUs with a lot of computing power and a lot of specialty circuits that are designed specifically to accelerate AI workloads. Um, that that equipment doesn't come cheap. It's extremely expensive, and so there's a lot of cost there, just to be able to use it and to leverage it. They're also extremely scarce resources, so just getting a hold of GPUs that you can use can be difficult. All of that requires paying a lot of money to a few companies that are out there that have them and can make them available. And so for me as the head of a team, for you and I both as we try to run our business, those things have very material impacts on the margins and the profitability of the company, what we can afford to spend money on in the rest of the business and stuff like that. It affects how quickly we can work, how much we can deliver. So I'd say that from that perspective, it's all about that scarcity and the cost of doing it. Um, but as you kind of zoom out and you think about the bigger impact, um, I think I was reading the other day that uh, they're anticipating that by 2027, just AI alone will require like 100 terawatt hours of electricity generation per year worldwide. And last year, the whole
Wow.
world, for all things, for all industry and transportation and everything combined, was less than 30 terawatt hours. So we're talking about triple the amount of electric generation in 4 years, just for this one part of the economy and this one new thing that we're adding to the world. So yeah, the needs are huge and vast. Um, and that's just electricity, right? There's also like water and because cooling all of that power in those data centers takes a lot of water today for the most part. Um, and Microsoft has just added a big data center right outside Phoenix, and they're going to be using, I think it was, I don't know, 50 trillion gallons of water a year or something. And that's in a place that's already parched and desperate for all of the fresh water they can find.
They don't even have
Um,
that water. They don't
and they
even
don't
have
have
that
it,
much water
to
there.
begin with.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
I mean, this
So
is
it
this
is.
is what this is a conundrum. Like you want something so badly, which is to use information to
Mhm.
accelerate our customers' journeys, scientific
Hmm.
research. We want to
Hmm.
solve world hunger with technology, but then you're
That's right.
so dependent upon. It's like, what if we didn't have electricity? That's what it feels like. Like if you didn't have electricity, you couldn't have lights in your house. Well, in a
Yep.
data center, if you don't have GPUs, you can't have AI. Well, at least that's the
That's right.
perception.
That's right. Yeah, and I'd say that one that it's important to remember that this does drive real benefit for all of us, right?
Mm,
The COVID vaccines wouldn't have come out as quickly as
right.
they had. We probably still wouldn't have a vaccine if we hadn't been able to accelerate the search for those molecules using AI. Um, but on the other hand, you do need to kind of think about the holistic impact and all of it, right? Um, and I think that we're doing that. I think that one of the things a lot of people are looking at right now is, are there ways to leverage regular CPUs or smaller CPUs? Do we really need GPUs for everything? Are there AI workloads we can run, on more efficient hardware and more efficient processors? Are there ways that we can leverage, software and acceleration libraries to make inferencing perform better on the existing hardware and the more efficient hardware? Are there statistical techniques and data science techniques? Can we quantize the model and make it smaller and faster and able to perform, in similar
Mm.
ways on more efficient hardware? So I think there's a lot happening in all of those areas. Hopefully, we see a lot of progress over the next few years. I also think that in a lot of ways, if you're worried about impact, you can focus on smaller problems and more specific use cases, and you can often find a smaller trained model, that will work for that use case, and it does really well at answering that specific question. And you can do that efficiently on commodity hardware, rather than having one model that can answer any question, for any use case or whatever. And so sometimes, three small efficient models may be better than one really big inefficient model. And we've also seen a lot of that. I think our customers are, especially now, LLMs are moving really fast, and like often those smaller, leaner, more efficient models can roll out today, and you don't have to wait a year for the hot new thing to come out.
This is sort of like the moral equivalent of the gas guzzler versus the economy car. And you figure out at some point, based on where you are in your life, you don't need the boat. You can go for the three seater, or
I
the
like that metaphor
hatchback.
a lot.
Yeah.
Actually, you could even extend the metaphor and say you don't even need a car all the time, right?
Right.
E-bikes have really taken off in a lot of places. And if you look at India, they have a ton of two-wheel and three-wheel vehicles. Like actually, the majority of motorized transportation in India is not a four-wheel car. It's a two-wheel or a three-wheel thing. And I think they've already switched. I think 2 years ago, 70% of all the tuk-tuks sold in India were already electrified. Um, and so it's a great metaphor, right? And there are all these other modes of transportation, and sometimes you don't need a big SUV. You can use a scooter because you only need to go a few blocks.
Yeah, it's funny, we talked about this in the last episode about um Llama
Hmm. Hmm.
3.1405B, and
Yeah,
just the potential of such a large parameter model. But you're right about this. It's like if you get a little, I think this comes with the evolution, the journey with large language models and AI in general, is that as customers figure out really what they want to do, they get
yeah.
down to the bite size. If
Hmm.
you think about it, the bite size, it has a lot of great impact. It has the impact on the footprint. It'll have an impact on the energy consumption. It'll have an impact on the cost of
Hmm.
everything, you know?
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
if you get those models just so precisely made and deployed in the right place, you can have them running on your phone. You can have them running
That's
on
right.
a, small compute system of a Raspberry Pi. And it
Hmm.
won't matter because it's been right sized. It's the right tool for the job, right? It's
That's right.
not like some inappropriate tool for the job. So
Yeah.
it's interesting. So, as an AI company, as you mentioned earlier, we struggle with just access to resource, let alone the budget for the resource.
Yeah.
As you were talking, I was thinking about, and you give me your view on this, but I was thinking about all of the new business opportunities, not only the new technology sort of modifications that can bring new innovations and capabilities, but also
Hmm.
new industries. I mean, I know because we've had this
Mhm,
discussion internally about leveraging like GPU as a service, where it's ephemeral. We don't need it 100% of the time. It's there.
mhm.
It's for a job. The job's over. We can let go. What's your take on these as a service models, and would you think that they'll have a benefit or a positive impact on energy consumption?
Yeah, I think that, we are seeing similar trends in that way, to like a lot of the consolidation that happened in the clouds, and people moving to the public cloud providers over the last couple of decades. There are economies of scale there for sure, and there are economies of scale in terms of the expertise, that are needed to do it. And if you're running a half rack in your, corporate office somewhere and handling the infrastructure yourself, the difference, making it 5%, 10% more efficient probably doesn't mean anything to you. It's not worth it.
Hmm.
But, if there's one company that's doing, 1,000 data centers a year or whatever Microsoft and Google are doing, then 5% is huge, right? Those are big, big
Yeah,
numbers.
yeah,
And so in
it's
a
a big
similar
impact.
way, I think with GPUs, rather than everybody spending 40 grand to buy their own A100, we are seeing consolidation there, and people offering those hourly and on demand as a service, because they can create these very dense clusters. They can buy a lot of other expensive stuff to go along and provide network and storage and other things to feed those GPUs, and keep them busy all the time at the rates that they need to. And so, yeah, that kind of is a win-win for everybody, because those big players can get the economies of scale and figure out how to make it efficient, and get better margins on doing it at scale. And we can get the benefit of that because we can rent per hour, and it's a low cost because they've figured out those hard problems for us. So yeah,
It's
in an
interesting.
ideal world, that all works out.
Yeah, as cloud figured out how to anonymize compute and storage,
Hmm.
that next step may be technology that can help anonymize my GPU from their GPU. So
Hmm.
I don't
Hmm.
care if it's NVIDIA. I don't care if it's AMD. I don't care if it's Intel.
Hmm. Hmm.
I need the function. I don't care what the make model is. I need
Hmm.
technology that will take advantage of whatever's there, right? It's the
Hmm.
virtualization layer for GPUs across brands, makes, models. Because in the way
Hmm.
the cloud works, we don't care if it's running on Dell or IBM or whatever it
Right.
is. It's just one big pool of resource reality wise. But
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
in the world of GPUs, does that matter as much? Or will it matter in the future?
I think that it still feels like we're pretty early in the AI journey, right? And I think that today all of those things do matter. Like, you need to know what GPU you're running on. You need to know
Mm.
the hardware. You need to know, the dependency chain and which version of which, library you're using, and all of that stuff can get very complicated very quickly. But I don't think that that will last. I think that as AI becomes more commoditized and more, distributed, and more embedded in our lives in little ways all throughout our lives. You're right, that can't last. Like, to deploy it to your phone, to deploy it to a Raspberry Pi, to deploy models on drones that are looking for methane leaks at oil wells and stuff. Um, it won't scale. They can't be worrying about the hardware and the version of the operating system and the NVIDIA driver. That stuff gets very messy very quickly. So somebody will find ways to abstract that stuff away. I mean, that's one of the things that we're working on, right? And I
Yes,
think there's
yeah,
a great
yeah.
appetite for that. And it does kind of go back to what we were talking about earlier too, in the efficiency stuff, because if you want to be able to deploy models anywhere in these AI workloads anywhere and run them in all kinds of places in our lives, you're not going to be able to do that in a giant data center. You can't haul a data center around with you in the car or in your phone or in your pocket or at the well, on an oil rig. So these things kind of go hand in hand.
Well, if I know one thing, you and your team will be there to figure out these challenges, and I am excited about seeing those outcomes. Chris, this has been a fantastic, fascinating session with you. I hope you come back again in a future week. I know you will because
Thank
I'll
you.
be
Thank you.
asking
I hope
you.
so too.
But I hope you have an awesome weekend. And all those listening to Humans and AI, I wish you a great weekend and a great week. And we'll be back next week with more content about this amazing journey that we're taking with AI. Thank you, Chris.
Wonderful. Thank you so much.